Nik Bonitto just got paid even without getting a contract. Micah Parsons' massive trade, an even bigger deal, just landed Nik Bonitto even more money. We're going to break it down here. Henry and Zach rocking and rolling with you. And Nik Bonitto is looking at Micah Parsons' deal and is the happiest person in the world outside of Micah Parsons, where Micah was traded from the Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers and lands a 4-year, $188 million deal, $47 million per year, making him by far the highest non-quarterback in NFL history. And Henry, what we hear from Nik Bonitto for a couple of weeks now is that the edge market is only going to go up and up. It's only more in his favor. And that was before this Micah Parsons deal.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know that it matters all that much for him. I think that with Parsons, it's just such a unique player. The comparisons that we look at, I still don't think change. And I get Micah Parsons' best season's 14 sacks, Nik Bonitto had 13 and a half last year. There is that statistical argument, but I don't think anybody thought that Bonitto was going to get paid like Micah Parsons. I'm still looking at that $25 million a year mark and saying, there's it's a few $1 million more than a George Karlaftis. It's about $10 million less than a Max Crosby, which might make it a little bit low. But at the same time, Max Crosby's there. I just think that when you look at Micah Parsons, it, it's a different level. It's a different caliber play. That's a defensive player of the year.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I mean, and
Mhm.
this, I should make it very clear that we're not talking about Nik Bonitto now becoming a $48 million per year
Mhm.
player. No. That's not it at all. But what we saw was, I would imagine Nik Bonitto and the Broncos were negotiating based off the current edge market, which the highest paid edge was at what, $42 million per year. There's two players in the NFL before Micah Parsons signed his deal that were making $40 million or more per season. And so that was where the market was. It was okay. The top players at 42 million. Nik's not at that top market. And look, I don't think I know Nik was not
Yeah.
negotiating as he was the top edge rusher. So they weren't competing with that top price. But the market just got $5 million more on what it was. So I think that might just mean that everyone else that's asking for a new deal says, I want $5 million more than what we were at right there. And so I agree with you, Henry, that I think the Broncos and Nik Bonitto were looking right around $25 million per year before this deal kicked in. If I'm Nik, I say the edge market has just gone up 20% or 10% or $5 million. So if I'm Nik in his side, I'm saying I want $5 million more per year. Make it $30 million. And maybe the Broncos are able to wiggle that a little bit, but he has made it clear on the multiple instances that we've talked to him, Henry, that the edge market is only going up. It's an edge. It's in favor of the players right now. So he clearly has his eyes on what's going on around the NFL. And this one, yes, he's not Micah Parsons. He's not in that territory of 47 million per year, but this does impact the edge market, I think.
Yeah. I still can't get. I don't think that the $25 million mark changes. I still think that those
Why? Why?
negotiations
Why?
don't
Why
change.
would his side not have that impacted?
I mean, so it's tough when you talk about negotiations because one side is trying to do one thing, the other side's trying to do the other, obviously. What matters is your value. And so when it comes down to it, Nick Bonito's options are to take a deal with the Broncos or to go to free agency and see what he gets on the open market. I don't think that his open market value is impacted by this contract. I think that there's the growth that you see every offseason in terms of like the way contracts go. And the longer you wait, the more you get paid. I don't know that I buy that this deal takes him from $25 million. Open market, he was probably worth 30. I think that when you get into a bidding war, that's kind of there is that bump. And if he was 30 before, I don't think now he hits free agency and they say, well, Micah Parsons gets that. We can justify 35. I just don't think that there's that much of an impact. I don't think just say we'll throw the 49ers out there are saying we are now more willing to spend this money. And because of that, when push comes to shove, they're I just don't buy that his actual worth grew by that much.
Well, it's what the market pays, and now the market's paying 47 for the top person, and I think everyone else benefits from that. I think George Karlaftis and the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs were smart to get that deal done before contracts went up. And Henry, this is a mind-boggling stat. Back in March, the top edge rusher in the entire NFL was paid $35.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, before any football has been played,
Mm-hmm.
from that March date till now, it's now $47 million. Think about that. In a matter of 5 months, one
Yep.
position, non-quarterback, has gone up $11.5 million. Imagine if the
Mm-hmm.
Broncos would have signed Nik Bonitto in February. It could have been a 4-year, it might have been a 4-year, $80 million deal, $60 million guaranteed, both sides feeling great about it. Now, before even any football's played between then and now, we might be talking about how Nik Bonitto's already on a fantastic deal. Now that contract is certainly, in my mind, it's at least at 23, 25 before this news. Now it's at, I think we're talking about 27 to $30 million, which is just crazy how this edge market has exploded. And I just can't get out of my head that Nik Bonitto, on the 2 instances that we've talked to him as media here in Denver, Henry, that he has pointed to how the edge market is only going up. It's an edge market right now in terms of, or it's an edge player market right now in terms of it's not coming down anytime soon. This is really beneficial for him. So he's pointing to that. I know his agent is one to get big time deals. And I think they are looking at this and saying they're seeing dollar signs in their eyes. And Henry, one more thing of why the Broncos just got to pay Nik ASAP is because if he gets to that open market, that means he plays all throughout this season. We've only seen Nik Bonitto progress as a player. His rookie season,
Mm-hmm.
not very good. He'll probably be the first to tell you that. He was a very raw rookie. The Broncos knew they were getting that. His second year, he goes out and gets 8 sacks. His third year, last year, 13.5 sacks, third most in the NFL. His trajectory is only like this right now. If he has one more year where he takes another step, 14 sacks. We just saw Micah Parsons give $47 million for having his best year being 14 sacks, 15 sacks, 16 sacks. He establishes himself as one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. And then scrap the $25 million, scrap the $30 million. If he hits the open market or has a season like this again where he's at 15 sacks, he will be at $48 million. That's what we're talking about right here. So take the bargain deal right now on Nik. And it's crazy to say that $30 million, $25 million, 75, 80, 90 million guaranteed, whatever it is a bargain, but it is in this market.
It could be. And again, that's assuming that he keeps doing what he did last year. And I mean, and then Sean Payton has said this is the tough part with him. It's easier to negotiate deals with Zach Allen or Cortland Sutton because you kind of know what they are. You've been able to see for a couple years what they are. Um, he said, Nik is in somewhat of a transition period, going from like a guy who couldn't see the field to a year ago. He entered the season as like a backup coming off whatever it was 8 sacks or something like that. And then by the end of the year, is putting up the crazy numbers that he was putting up. So again, if you wind up getting a 15 sack a year guy, then yes, it's a crazy deal. If he's the 2023 version of that, then all of a sudden it's the overpay. And that's the risk here. And that's why it's so scary. And typically when a market does this, it's not a market you want to get into. I think, for example, the Micah Parsons deal, terrible, terrible contract. Like that contract will not age well for the Packers. And they have the short-term view of, hey, we can swap Kenny Clark, who used to be a really good player, but I think started every game last year for the Packers, would have finished 9th on the Broncos in tackles for loss, 10th on the Broncos in sacks. That's the production that he was giving with that bloated contract. The long-term effects of a deal like this, I mean, it's the guarantees that are crazy. It's a big number, of course, but that 120 million guaranteed, you've never seen that from a guy who's not a quarterback. And in terms of guys who are a quarterback, there's only a handful who've gotten that. And it's not that Micah Parsons isn't a good player, it's that there's no way you outperform that contract. There's no way to give a guy that much money and say, oh, look, his value is actually more. That's the thing that you talk about with NBA contracts all the time. There's a max salary, and there's 6 different guys on the max salary. Well, guess what? Joker is better than LeBron, is better than whoever, but they all get paid the same, so you have the excess value. That's where the Bonitto deal, if you get it done now, you could have that massive excess value in that you sign him for this number, but he's worth that number. Essentially, you got another $13 million that you should be spending to keep Nik that you get to spend elsewhere. That's the math that you have to do on the back end. And I think it's a good deal. But when you talk about things like a young football team where they're going to be guys who need to get paid, who we like to say they're in a championship window, but eventually Bo is going to need to get paid. If you make mistakes on contracts like these, those can really put a damper on things. It may not be as big as the Russell Wilson damper, but it's a damper nonetheless. So
Henry, really quick, let's say there's a deal offered from the Broncos or Nik Bonitto's side. Who says no? 4 years, $27.5 million per year right now, tonight.
I think both sides do it.
I think we've got a deal. I think we've got a deal, and I think that value went up from $25 million before. I love the conversation. Very fun to have. We'll see when the Broncos decide to pay Nik. We'll be out there every single day seeing if number 15 is going to get $30 million.